Alrighty, hello, my friends. I'm Elmo, and I am an alcoholic. Alrighty, so I debated what I should tell y'all all about my life, and I kind of narrowed it down to what I think my reasonings for drinking, quote unquote. So I was born and raised in Texas. I was born in the Dallas Fort Worth area. Um, yeah, my father left when I was 3. He's a pretty piece of work. He told my mom that he was getting cigarettes and never came back. Um, so yeah, I have lots of issues with my father for leaving my mom with 3 boys, all by herself. Um, so the issues that I have with my father is a alcoholic and a cocaine addict. Still kicking in his 70s, but still doing the same things that he's been doing all of his life. Um, I remember I did see him in the summers sometimes. He would come pick us up for several weeks. Um, and just pretty much we would not see him because we spent all of our time with our cousins and he was either working or hanging out with friends. He would take us to Mexico, where he's from. Um, and I remember he would just drop us off at his sister's house and we wouldn't see him for days. I do have a very vivid memory of him. We were driving a nicer car. It wasn't his car. He was driving. I was in the back seat. We picked up some guy that was very nicely dressed, and I remember him turning around and smiling at me, and he had a gold tooth. I remember that. It wasn't until later on, as an adult, that I realized that my dad was taking me on a coke deal. So that's lots of fun. um, yeah, those are my issues with my father because every time that we did see him, he was drunk. He always smelled like very cheap cologne. He always wore Brute, and I hate that smell. He smelled like cheap cologne and beer, and yeah, it was really gross. Um, that led to me realizing that my father really sucked. When I was a kid, he was my hero because I didn't really know anything about him. He's my father. He's my hero. I freaking love that guy. And then as I got older, nah, that guy sucks a lot. So I haven't spoken to my father since 2008. I haven't seen him in person since 2006. And actually saying that out loud, that's a really freaking long time. But like I said, every time I did see him, he was drunk. And yeah, so it runs in the family. As far as I know, his dad was a drunk. His brothers are all drinkers. Yeah. So my mom definitely had a pretty hard job of raising 3 boys on her own. Um, and I think my mom just had this issue of not wanting to be alone. So when my father left, we moved in with her next boyfriend, which happened to be my father's nephew. Um, so we moved in with him. My mom says he seemed like a nice guy. Um, but then he just ended up turning out like my father, drinking all the time. And then once he started bringing cocaine into the house, that's when she decided she needed to leave. She didn't want her children around that. Um, but I did witness quite a few times of him beating her. So very early childhood memories of that. So after we left that guy's house, we moved to a different city and with my mom's next boyfriend. Nothing really happened there. He was a nice guy. Um, this is when I was, I don't know, 6 or 7, maybe 8. But things weren't going well for my mom in the Dallas area. So my grandma, which is actually my stepmom, is my mom's third stepmom. So she's technically not my grandma, but either way, we lived with her when we first moved to Odessa, Texas. And that was when I was, I think, 7 or 8. I don't quite remember. And I was raised in Odessa. Odessa, Texas is a shithole. I don't like it there. It is very, very conservative. When I was there, it's very, very religious. And but my mom had to do what she had to do. She was offered a place and with my grandma, and she needed the help, so she took it. Um, and then that was when she started moving her boyfriends in. Started with one guy. Luckily, the guys that she moved in when we were in Odessa were actually really nice guys. Um, but in total, she had two boyfriends that moved in, and then they broke up and they moved out. And then finally, my mom met my stepdad when I was 9 years old. Um, at first, I didn't like him, but my stepdad, I'll just refer to him as my dad because he is my dad. The other guy is my father, sperm donor. Um, but my dad is a very good man. He's been in the picture since I was 9 years old, and that guy is my dad forever and ever. Yeah, ever since he got into the picture, life got a lot better for the most part. Mom stopped struggling. You know, I will give this to my mom. We grew up very poor, but she always made sure that we were fed and we had clothes on our back. She was a good mom. She worked her ass off, and she did what she needed to do to raise three boys. Her moving her boyfriends in all the time was an issue, but yeah, if I talked about all the issues I have with my parents, we'd be here for several hours. Um, yeah, so that growing up in Odessa, my mom always taught me to love people for who they are. She's not prejudiced, she's not racist, anything like that. She loves people for them. Um, but it was in junior high and high school where I got fed all these religious. I got fed all the religion from my friends, and that's when I discovered in the place that I grew up that being gay is quote a sin and very wrong. So junior high is when I finally um, realized that I'm gay. Like I always knew I was different, but junior high was when I realized, oh my goodness, I'm gay. I like boys. This sucks because my my friends feeding me all this religious stuff. I tried many nights to pray and pray and pray, God, please don't make me this way. Um, I don't want to end up in hell. All the stupid shit that I used to tell myself, but I still liked boys, and that made me start hating myself. Um, Self hatred is not a good thing. I remember I was in a very very dark place in high school, but on the outside, I'm all happy and everything. I had lots of great friends, great quote unquote. I don't speak to any of them anymore. And that's when I was 17. I got introduced to alcohol. Um, and how I was introduced to alcohol was you drink to get drunk. It's not something that you just do socially, one here, one there. No, you drink to get drunk because it feels good. And that's when I realized, hey, this is nice. I don't have to worry about anything. Um, so right at 17, I started drinking pretty heavily. Um, Even at lunch, during our lunch break at school, I would sneak some drinks with my friends and show up to orchestra because I play the violin, show up to orchestra drunk, and not caring, just whatever. But I was drinking because I didn't like myself, and drinking made me forget all of my worries, quote unquote. And so that's when the drinking started. And then my senior year, that's when I started smoking pot. Um, and I became a pretty big pothead and still drinking as well. So I go to college. Um, College was a little more freeing. I was away from home. I took my liberty to the extreme. That's when I was partying all the time, drinking all the time, doing whatever I wanted, and it was great. Um, and because college is a little more liberal, I guess, so I started telling friends that I was bisexual, even though I knew I was gay, because I felt like being bi isn't as bad as being gay. There's still hope that I could be with a woman, quote unquote. So through my partying and everything like that, I missed a lot of classes, um, did not have a good GPA, lost my scholarship, um, and after 2 years, I dropped out. Um, that was a heavy thing to do because I was going for music, and music is a very big part of my life, always will be. And I felt so defeated. after dropping out. And I knew it was because I told myself, well, I don't want to be a orchestra director anymore. No, I knew it was because it was just too hard and I wanted to party. Um, but it is what it is. So when I dropped out, I found my now ex-wife. Um, we hit it off. We were good friends. We had the same interest, mostly smoking pot together. um, and we partied together, same interest in music, and movies. So we really hit it off. She was my best friend and hung out all the time. And then I can honestly say I did fall in love with her. I did care for her and everything. Um, yeah, and everything was great. And I legit told myself, like, sweet, this is the one. Um, I don't have to worry about liking guys anymore. I'm fine. I have this person. So we get married. I'm only 23 at this point. Um, we get married. Our marriage lasts 9 months because 2 weeks after we got married, I felt so trapped. I knew I made a mistake. I knew I am a gay man, and she could see it. She knew something was wrong, but instead of talking to me about it, she started sleeping with other people. um, so I blamed it all on her, um, even though knowing that this relationship was going to end because I couldn't take it anymore. I knew I know I'm gay, and but I blamed it on her. Like, you slept around, you're disgusting, and I kicked her out of the house. And so I was left in Amarillo, Texas, the place where I went to college, all alone. And I had no idea what to do. I was very depressed, going through a divorce. And in my head, I was like, what am I going to do now? My plan is fucked. I was planning on staying with this woman for the rest of my life and just living the regular life. And that didn't happen. What am I going to do now? Am I going to stay in the closet? Am I going to come out of the closet, be proud, everything? I don't know. So my brother moved me out here to Tucson because he knew life was not going well in Texas. I had to leave. He moves me out to Tucson. Um, and actually, I start working on myself physical wise. I mean, I was still drinking very heavily. And my brother became my drinking buddy. But I started working on myself physically, running a lot and everything. I started getting into shape. So he convinced me, he put that little seed in my ear, hey, why don't you join the Air Force? And I considered it and I thought, yeah, this is a good idea. I can get my education and it's a freaking great idea. So I was kind of on the fence about it because don't ask, don't tell was still a thing. And I didn't want to, I had just come out of the closet. I moved to Tucson and I decided, okay, live your true life. You're gay, accept it. And so I'm on cloud nine. I'm finally an openly gay man. This is great. But now I'm joining the Air Force where don't ask, don't tell is a thing. I don't want to go back into the closet. I just came out. This isn't fair. So don't ask, don't tell was repealed in September of 2011. I enlisted in November of 2011. That's like, oh, sweet. I can be openly gay in the military. I'm in. Let's do this. So yeah, I joined the Air Force and things are going great. Then I get back to Tucson. I did basic training, tech school, took several months, come back to Tucson. I get my own place and I start working. I'm an aircraft mechanic, starting at the very bottom, just doing the most basic things, mostly inspections, and them drilling into our brain that these aircraft literally have pilots in them. If you mess up, you can legit kill someone. And that weighed heavy on me, big time. I had major anxiety at my job. I would think, oh my goodness, I missed something in the inspection. That plane is going to crash. And I'm going to be responsible for it. And it was so crippling. The only way that I would take care of it is drinking, because drinking took away the anxiety. But then I started waking up really depressed. And that's when I would say the depression really started, was my first 2 years in the Air Force. I was living alone, and all I did was drink. And then it was acceptable in the Air Force This is the military. We're maintainers. We drink, we work hard, and we party hard. So I'm drinking with my buddies, partying hard, but they didn't know that I was drinking every day, um, alone at my house. And it put me into quite a financial struggle, but somehow I made it through. Um, that's when I started hiding my drinking big time. Even when I moved out of my apartment, moved in with my best friend, on my way home from work, I would get 3 tall boys and pound them on my way home so I can get a little buzz going. And I hate people who litter, but this is what alcohol did to me, that I didn't care. I would just toss the cans out of the window to get rid of the evidence. And I hated that about myself. Um, yeah. So this is going on for several years with the anxiety from work and anxiety triggering my depression. I'd say my 4th year into the Air Force, I had a complete breakdown at work. I said, I can't do this anymore. I don't feel safe. I need to talk to someone. I need a therapist or something. Then the amazing thing that is mental health in the military, which is not amazing at all. When I called them in a legit breakdown, they told me, all right, our soonest appointment is in a month. I need to see someone now. And the dude said, well, yeah, if it's an emergency, just call 911. I'm like, wow, y'all really don't care. Sweet. So yeah, I took the only appointment they can get me in a month and just kind of coasted on being depressed until that month. And then I had my first appointment, and I absolutely hated the counselor. She was not a good fit for me, but I saw her a couple of times, and I only saw her once a month because that's all they could see me. Because they had so many clients, that's all they could see me. So I requested a new counselor, and he wasn't great either. Again, only seeing him once a month. So this is going on for a couple years now. And I finally said, I don't need to work with military mental health anymore. I'm going to find a therapist of my own. And it cost the first therapist. I didn't even shop around. I said, queer friendly therapist in Tucson. And the first one I found was $130 an hour. And I paid it. And I saw her every week. So that was rough, but I somehow made it work, and I was still drinking. Through therapy, I do want to give a little bit of trigger warning because this does involve child abuse. Through therapy and through everything I was going through in the Air Force, it kind of went through my brain of what actually happened to me as a child. So I have 2 older brothers. My oldest brother, who's 5 years older than me, made my childhood hell. He beat me up all the time, mentally abused me. He would tell me over and over and over, nobody loves you. Mom wanted a girl and you were her last chance, and she got another boy. She hates you. But always put me down. Any chance that he got. I remember one time he pinned me down to the ground when my mom was home. He says, "You're lucky mom's home because I want to kick your ass so bad." And he would tell me if I told my parents, he was going to make it a lot worse because we spent a lot of time alone at home because both my parents worked. And it came out when I was about 29 or 30 of what he actually did to me. So one night when I was 11 years old, he sexually molested me. And I was reliving that in nightmares, and I hated it. So what did I do? Drank more. And I started experimenting with other drugs, anything to make me not think about it. For years, I just thought all the abuse that he put me through was just what big brothers do. They just pick on their little brothers. And then it really set in like, no, that was really fucked up, especially the sexual abuse. Not cool. So I confronted him about it, and his response was, excuse me, his response was, well, the same thing happened to me. So what I put you through isn't that bad. Turns out he was sexually abused by a neighbor. And he justified what he did to me uh, by that. And he was being picked on at school, so he picked on me. I was 5 years younger. I was a child, and he knew what he was doing. So that was really rough, and it sent me into another spiral of just binge drinking and drugs. Um, so I first started with Vicodin. I got my wisdom teeth pulled in the military, and they prescribed me 40 Vicodin. It's quite a bit of Vicodin for just getting your wisdom teeth pulled. I got a dry socket, and they prescribed me 40 more. And that's when I discovered you can take a Vicodin and drink a beer, and holy shit, are you intoxicated? Then I started abusing the shit out of the Vicodin. I was told, well, you can crush it up and snort it. And so I started doing that. And then I started doing that with Percocet. And I started taking coke, started abusing cocaine. And all this, keep in mind that I am in the military. I can get drug tested at any time. But we called them the weekend drugs, because those harder drugs only stay in your system for 48 to 2 to 3 days, and you're good. And lots of experimentation, and it was a very rough few years. Again, I would go through months at a time of drinking every single day, take a break. All right, I'm only going to drink on the weekends. But eventually it always turned to back to drinking every single day, absolutely destroying my finances. It ended to the point where I got my car repossessed twice. My brother had to help me out on that one. I'm getting me a new car because I just spent all my money on booze. And so depression is killing me. Anxiety is killing me, but I don't stop drinking. All the therapists that I had, I went through several therapists. All the ones that I had just kind of skirted around the fact that I needed to stop drinking. And even my psychiatrist, who put me on meds, she said, yeah, you should probably stop drinking. It's not good to take your meds and drink alcohol. You should probably stop drinking. It wasn't until I found my current therapist that says you need to stop drinking. I do want to back up and tell one story right before I found this current therapist. I don't remember what years this was. It was definitely in my the depth of all my drinking and drugging. It was a July 4th, and we had a party, and of course drinking all day. I had woken up drunk from the night before, and continued drinking all day. Some friends came over with cocaine, started doing cocaine. Another friend said, hey, you want some Molly? Of course I want some Molly. All this stuff. And that started a week-long bender of drugs and alcohol. And I was going to work drunk. And it's not good as an aircraft mechanic. I'm not keeping myself safe. I'm not keeping people safe. And so I had another breakdown at work, but this one was, I went and told my boss, I'm not safe to work on aircraft. I'm drunk. If you send me home, I'm going to kill myself. And he says, okay, we need to get you some help. And he says, what do you think you need right now? And I thought I needed family support. So I told him, I want to go to El Paso and see my brother, because me and my older brother are super tight. And he says, okay, you're not getting in a car because you're drunk. I suggest you go to the emergency room. So I went to the emergency room and had to tell the doctors that they asked, why are you here? And I said, I want to kill myself. And so, yeah, I was held there for only 24 hours until I got a psych eval, and they said, no, you're just drunk. You need to sober up. And yeah. But I mean, it helped. I got it out, and I stayed the night in the hospital. So yeah, but that showed that I just didn't want to be alive anymore. All the drinking was just getting to me. I couldn't do it anymore. So I find this current therapist, and he's the one that tells me, you need to stop drinking. All of your problems, not all, but majority of your problems are caused by drinking. Your depression is caused by drinking. So I gave it a shot. I went to my first meeting. It was kind of scary, even though it was online. Um, though, like, one guy completely broke down because he had just relapsed. And I remember thinking, I'm like, oh my God, is this all what meetings are? Everybody's just crying. This is going to be depressing. I don't want to do this. And then so I tried a different meeting, and it wasn't like that. Everybody's just sharing their strength and hope and everything. And that's where I found my sponsor. Um, my sponsor lives in Austin. He's a really great guy, and he's helped me out so much. But his way of doing things is like, all right, we got to do step work. We got to do step work now, and we got to get it done. Um, so by my second month of sobriety, I was already working on step 4, and he really didn't tell me to take my time with it. So I just started unloading things on paper and feeling like shit about myself. I really didn't like it. I felt so much like shit about myself that I relapsed. And that relapse luckily only lasted like 4 days. But in that 4 days, I drank so much alcohol. I'm surprised I didn't get alcohol poisoning. I drank so much alcohol, and I told my therapist about it. He says, you need to get to detox now. And so I went to detox. Spent 4 days there. The first night, I was like, I'm overreacting. I don't need to be here. And then by the next day, my vitals were still all over the place. I'm like, nah, I should be here. Yeah. This and luckily, I have used that relapse as a motivation. I never want to go back there again. That sucked. 4 days in there. I stayed to myself. I slept so much, but I just did not want to be there. And I was embarrassed. I'm like, you put yourself here. Your drinking is so out of control that you put yourself here. And yeah. So after my relapse, I was dedicated to sobriety. And I made the mistake of getting into a relationship right at the beginning of my sobriety, with a normie, quote unquote, because I was very vulnerable after that relapse. I needed the support, and he was very nice and supported me. And this came to a year of lots of frustrations. I let him move in with me after 4 months of being together, and he was very lazy. I really found out that we do not click on anything. We don't have anything in common, and I just kept on trying to make it work, and it didn't work. So I broke up with him. I was in this group, and I broke up with him, and lots of people helped me through that. And it sucked. And I kept telling him, I'm like, it's not fair that I got with you at the beginning of my sobriety, because so many things have changed. I'm not the same person. And he didn't understand that. And I was very, very hurt that I broke his heart, but it is what it is. He's moved on. I hope he's moved on. I had to block him on everything. But I've definitely moved on, and lots of lessons were learned. But yeah. So in these almost 2 years of sobriety, I have 1 year and 10 months. Life has gotten so much better. I don't miss alcohol. Sometimes I still get cravings, but I have to remind myself of how bad it got, how I didn't want to live anymore, and now I do. Yeah, things aren't perfect. I still have my slumps of depression and everything, but it is a hell of a lot better than what it was. I'm able to get out of bed and live my life. My finances are finally getting in order. Yeah, they're still pretty bad from when I was drinking, but they are a lot better. So I had to remind myself every single day, you're not drinking because your life is so much better. And I've met so many wonderful people through sobriety in this group, and I absolutely love every single one of y'all. And I'm so proud of myself, and I keep fighting every single day to make myself happy. And for me, being happy includes being sober. Thank you so much for letting me share. It's really an honor to share with y'all. I love this group, and thank you.